Most men believe that saying you're beautiful is the easiest way to make a woman feel special. It's a phrase that sounds polite, charming, and even romantic on the surface. But the truth is, for most women, it barely touches them anymore. They've heard it too many times from too many people in too many ways. It doesn't stand out, it doesn't create emotion, and it doesn't make her think about you after the conversation ends. What it does, at best, is make her smile politely and move on. Because beautiful is not a feeling, it's a label. When you tell a woman she's beautiful, you're describing what's already visible. You're pointing out the obvious. It's like complimenting the sky for being blue. She knows it. Others remind her of it. It's comfortable, predictable, and it requires no emotional risk on your part. But women don't crave comfort when it comes to attraction. They crave depth. They want to feel something real. They want to feel that you see beyond the face she shows to the world. Every woman secretly wonders if someone can see her, not just her looks, but the story behind them. That's why impact matters more than compliments. Impact happens when your words go beneath her surface. It's when she pauses for a second after you speak, not because she's flattered, but because she felt something shift inside her. Impact comes from connection, not decoration. You don't create it by memorizing fancy lines or romantic quotes. You create it by being present enough to notice what others overlook. Maybe it's the way she pauses before she answers a question, or how her voice softens when she talks about something she loves. When you point that out, genuinely, you're telling her, I see you, and that message hits deeper than any generic compliment ever could. The difference between a compliment and an impact statement is emotional awareness. A compliment is about you trying to make her like you. Impact is about you making her feel understood, and women can sense that difference immediately. When you say something surface level, it feels transactional, so as if you're hoping to get approval in return, but when you speak from awareness, you remove that neediness. You don't say it to get a reaction, you say it because it's true, and that truth carries weight. Think of the last time someone said something about you that wasn't about your looks, but about your energy. Maybe they said, I like how calm you stay when everyone else is panicking. You remember it, right? Because it wasn't about your appearance, it was about who you are. That's what women want to feel. They want to feel recognized in a world that constantly reduces them to beauty and appearances. When you give that recognition, you create impact, and that's what makes your presence linger in her mind long after you leave. There's also a psychological layer here. The female brain is wired to seek emotional cues for safety and connection. When you use words that show emotional depth, she subconsciously feels safer around you. She feels like she can relax in your presence. That relaxation is what allows attraction to grow naturally. On the other hand, when you overuse physical compliments, it triggers a different reaction. She becomes guarded. She assumes you're after validation or attention, not authenticity. That's why your intentions matter more than your vocabulary. When your energy says, I'm not here to flatter you, I'm here to see you, she feels that. And it's rare, because most men don't know how to make a woman feel seen without trying to win her. The irony is, when you stop trying to win her and start focusing on the impact of your words, that's when she becomes drawn to you. Not because you told her she's beautiful, but because you made her feel beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with appearance. Most men assume attraction is built through appearance, compliments, and external charm. They think if they keep reminding a woman she's beautiful, funny, or stunning, she'll naturally start to feel something deeper. But what truly awakens a woman's desire is not being admired, it's being felt. Emotional depth is what separates a forgettable interaction from one that stays in her mind long after you're gone. It's not about how smoothly you talk, it's about how deeply your presence resonates with her emotions. Women are intuitive creatures. They can sense when a man's words come from a place of genuine perception versus performance. A shallow compliment like, you look so good tonight, doesn't reach her core. It simply acknowledges her exterior. But when you tell her, there's a calm in the way you speak that makes everything around you quiet, it touches something far more personal. It signals that you're not distracted by her beauty. You're tuned into her essence. And that shift, from noticing how she looks to noticing how she feels, is where emotional depth begins. Emotional depth is about awareness. It's the art of observing what others overlook. When she talks, you're not waiting for your turn to speak. You're genuinely listening to the energy behind her words. You notice her tone when she's excited, the hesitation when she's unsure, the way her eyes move when she's remembering something close to her heart. You don't rush to fix her feelings or compliment her through them. You simply witness them. That quiet observation creates a magnetic tension because most people are busy trying to say the right thing. Very few are brave enough to feel the right thing. Surface flattery is predictable. It's like sugar, sweet for a moment, but it fades quickly. Emotional depth, on the other hand, is nourishment. It gives her something to think about, something to feel even when you're not around. When a man interacts from emotional depth, his words have layers. They carry a tone of steadiness, patience, and understanding. He doesn't rush to validate her beauty. He mirrors her humanity. That mirroring tells her, you don't have to perform here. You can just be. And that's the moment a woman begins to feel attraction beyond logic. There's a reason why women remember emotionally intelligent men even after years. It's not because they said the most romantic things. It's because they made her feel safe being herself. Emotional depth is rare in a world obsessed with image. It's the difference between being interested in how she looks versus being intrigued by who she is. When you communicate from depth, you create curiosity in her. She begins to wonder how you can see what others miss. That curiosity turns into fascination, and fascination is the root of feminine desire. A woman's attraction grows through emotional stimulation. Physical attraction might catch her attention, but emotional connection holds it. When your words reach the emotional layer of her experience, she stops viewing you as just another man giving her attention. You become someone who understands her rhythm, her emotional language. That's why deep attraction often feels unexplainable to her. It's not about your looks or status. It's about the emotional atmosphere you create when you're around her. To communicate with emotional depth, you don't need to be overly serious or dramatic. You just need to be real. When she speaks, meet her with calm curiosity instead of quick validation. When you compliment, do it from presence, not performance. Instead of saying, "You're so confident," try saying, "I like how you hold space when you walk into a room. It's quiet, but powerful." This kind of language shows emotional intelligence. It paints a picture of who she is rather than what she looks like. Emotional depth is also built through your silence. The pauses between your words can hold more impact than the words themselves if they're charged with attention. When you truly listen, you create emotional space. That space allows her to drop her defenses. And when a woman drops her guard, she connects, she opens. That's the moment attraction transforms from surface interest into emotional intimacy, because she doesn't just feel seen, she feels understood. There's a subtle but powerful difference between a woman feeling admired and a woman feeling desired. Admiration is distant, desire is intimate. When you admire her, you put her on a pedestal. You look at her as something impressive, almost untouchable. But when you desire her in a grounded, controlled, and emotionally intelligent way, you make her feel seen in her feminine energy. You connect with her not as an idea, but as a living, breathing woman who stirs something in you. That's what creates tension, chemistry, and an invisible pull that she can feel without a single physical touch. Many men confuse admiration with attraction. They think praising a woman constantly will make her feel wanted, but admiration often feels one-sided. It keeps her at a distance. It's safe, polite, and predictable. Desire, on the other hand, carries risk. It's raw. It requires presence, not perfection. It's not about chasing her. It's about allowing your masculine energy to recognize her feminine essence and communicate through that silent recognition. When you do this right, she doesn't just feel flattered, she feels drawn in. To make a woman feel desired, you need to stop idolizing her and start engaging her energy. This isn't about sexualizing her or turning everything into flirtation. It's about letting her feel your interest in a way that's controlled yet intentional. For example, instead of saying, "You look amazing," say, "You have this way of making a room feel different when you walk in." That's not just admiration. It's desire wrapped in awareness. It acknowledges her presence, not just her beauty. It tells her that you're not blind to her effect, but you're calm enough to handle it. That calmness is what amplifies masculine magnetism. Women are drawn to men who can hold their gaze without being intimidated by their allure. A man who can look at her, really look, without rushing to compliment or objectify her, creates mystery. His attention feels grounded, not needy. His words and body language say, "I see your beauty, but it doesn't overwhelm me." That balance between restraint and recognition makes her feel desired in a way that ignites her imagination. She begins to feel safe in his presence, but also curious about what lies beneath his composure. Desire is emotional before it's physical. When you listen to her stories with genuine curiosity, when you notice the spark in her eyes when she's passionate about something, when you acknowledge her energy instead of only her appearance, you activate a deeper connection. You show that your attraction isn't based on her outer layer, it's tied to her essence. That's what separates a man she forgets from a man she can't stop thinking about. Because when she feels desired on a soul level, she begins to desire you back. Making her feel desired also means creating polarity, the natural dance between masculine and feminine energy. You don't do this by dominating her or trying to control the interaction. You do it by being steady, grounded, and unapologetically aware of your attraction without being consumed by it. When your energy says, "I'm drawn to you, but I don't need to chase you," she feels the magnetic pull. It tells her you're emotionally mature, that your interest isn't about validation, but about genuine connection. Women crave to be desired for who they are, not just how they look. When you express desire through your attention, tone, and presence, it gives her permission to relax into her femininity. She doesn't feel like she has to perform to keep your interest. She feels like she can simply be, and you'll still feel drawn to her. That experience is rare for most women, to feel both safe and wanted in the same moment. Desire that comes from authenticity has power. It's subtle, yet it stays with her. It doesn't rush to prove anything or push boundaries. It simply exists. It moves in the pauses, in the eye contact, in the calm confidence of your words. It's not about saying too much. It's about feeling what you say. When your words carry that unspoken energy, she doesn't need grand gestures to know what you want. She already feels it in the way you look at her, the way you listen, the way you hold yourself in her presence. In a world where most men are constantly trying to impress, presence has become a rare form of attraction. Many men believe they have to prove their worth to a woman by saying the perfect things, showing confidence, or appearing impressive. But what they don't realize is that trying too hard destroys authenticity. The moment you start performing, you disconnect from your natural energy. You begin to focus on her reaction instead of your own intention, and women can sense that instantly. True masculine power doesn't come from effort, it comes from presence. Presence is when you are completely grounded in yourself, fully aware of the moment, and unaffected by the need to control outcomes. It's when your energy says, "I'm here, and I'm comfortable being here." That stillness is magnetic because it's real. When you're truly present, you don't need to fill every silence or seek her approval. You don't need to over-explain or overshare. You allow the interaction to breathe. You let her feel your calm instead of your anxiety. And that calm energy creates safety, the most attractive feeling to a feminine woman. Performance, on the other hand, is rooted in insecurity. It's when you speak from fear instead of awareness. You talk too much because silence makes you uncomfortable. You laugh too loudly because you're afraid of seeming boring. You compliment too often because you think that's what she wants to hear. But deep down, she can feel that it's not real. It feels like you're doing something to her rather than with her. That's the difference between performing and connecting. When you perform, your energy reaches outward, seeking validation. When you're present, your energy stays centered, inviting connection. Presence doesn't mean being silent or emotionless. It means being fully engaged with the moment without losing yourself in it. When she talks, you actually listen, not just to her words, but to the emotions beneath them. You notice her body language, the shifts in her tone, the energy behind her expressions. You don't rush to respond, you let her words land before you speak. That pause, that moment of genuine attention, makes her feel seen in a way no performance ever could. Women are deeply intuitive. They feel your energy more than they hear your words. You could say all the right things, but if your energy feels forced or nervous, she'll sense the disconnect. But if you speak less and mean every word, she'll lean in. Presence communicates authenticity. It tells her that you are not pretending to be confident. You are confident. You're not trying to impress. You're simply allowing her to experience who you are. That kind of masculine stillness pulls her in because it creates contrast to her natural emotional movement. When you're present, you stop chasing a reaction. You don't say things to get a smile or a compliment back. You say things because they're real in that moment. You become more observant. You might tell her, "You have this calm in your voice when you talk about things you love." It's kind of grounding. That's not a rehearsed line. It's a reflection of what you genuinely noticed. That kind of communication comes from awareness, not performance. It doesn't sound like you're trying to win her. It sounds like you're just being honest. The beauty of presence is that it builds trust effortlessly. A woman feels when she's with a man who is truly there. She feels it in the steadiness of his voice, the patience in his eyes, and the ease in his body language. There's no rush, no pressure, no pretending. Presence gives her permission to drop her guard, to be herself without fear of judgment. And when she relaxes, connection happens naturally. Attraction doesn't need to be forced. It unfolds in the silence between words, in the way you hold her attention without trying to hold it. Presence is the quiet confidence that says, "I don't need to perform to be enough." It's that unshakable energy that makes her wonder about you, not because you said something special, but because she felt something real. It's the most powerful form of communication a man can master, and it requires nothing more than being grounded, aware, and completely authentic in every moment you share with her. The biggest mistake most men make when they talk to a woman is trying to feed her ego instead of awakening her imagination. When you tell a woman she's beautiful, smart, or amazing, it makes her feel good for a moment, but it doesn't make her feel you. It doesn't stay in her mind when you're gone. Those words touch her ego, not her emotions. But when your words make her imagine you, when they create a picture or a feeling that lingers in her thoughts, that's when desire begins to build. Women don't fall for the man who praises them the most. They fall for the man who makes them feel something unseen. Imagination is the feminine language of attraction. A woman's emotional world is vivid, layered, and deeply connected to imagery and feeling. She experiences attraction through how a man makes her visualize the connection, not how much he flatters her. When you speak in a way that paints emotions rather than describing appearances, you awaken her curiosity. You pull her into a mental and emotional space where she starts to wonder, who is this man? Why does his presence feel different? Why do I keep thinking about what he said? That wondering is the seed of attraction. Triggering her imagination isn't about manipulation. It's about connection through emotional suggestion. You don't tell her directly what to feel. You create a space for her to feel it herself. For example, instead of saying, "You're so sexy," you could say, "There's something about the way you look at people. It's like you see right through them." That line doesn't compliment her directly. It gives her an image to play with. It makes her visualize herself through your eyes. And in doing so, it draws her emotionally closer. That's how you engage her imagination while staying authentic. When you trigger her imagination, she starts associating certain feelings with your presence. She begins to anticipate your words, your tone, your silence. She starts to imagine what you're thinking when you look at her. That mystery excites her because it activates her emotional world. Her attraction isn't based on your looks or charm anymore. It's based on how she feels when she's around you. And those feelings, once triggered, are hard to forget. Ego fades quickly. Imagination lingers. Men who only feed a woman's ego are easy to replace because their words are predictable. Every woman has heard, "You're gorgeous" or "You're perfect" hundreds of times. But very few men make her feel seen in a way that ignites her inner world. When your words and presence inspire a feeling instead of a compliment, you step into a space most men never reach. She doesn't categorize you as another admirer. She starts to see you as someone who understands something deeper about her. The key to triggering imagination lies in your tone and emotional awareness. Your words should carry calm confidence, not urgency. You're not trying to impress her, you're revealing what you naturally notice. The more you observe her energy, the more authentic your words become. Maybe you notice how her voice softens when she talks about something she loves, or how her laughter changes depending on who she's with. Pointing out something real, specific, and emotionally layered tells her you're paying attention. It shows emotional depth without overexposing your intentions. Women live through feelings and mental imagery. When you learn to communicate in a way that awakens that part of her, you become unforgettable. She starts imagining scenarios, not because you forced her to, but because your presence suggested something powerful. The mystery of what if becomes more intoxicating than any direct flirtation could ever be. She feels something rising within her, a quiet tension, a fascination that she can't explain logically. That's imagination taking over, and that's what builds emotional desire. When your connection lives in her imagination, you become a story in her mind rather than just another person in her life. Your energy starts to occupy her thoughts in moments when she least expects it, when she's alone, when she's working, when she's quiet. Because imagination has no boundaries, it keeps playing with possibilities. That's why the most powerful attraction is subtle. It's built through suggestion, through the space you leave between your words, and through the quiet confidence that says, I don't need to chase your attention. I just want you to feel something real when I speak. Words are powerful, but not all words carry the same energy. When you tell a woman, you're beautiful, it might sound kind, even romantic, but it's also predictable. It doesn't touch her emotions. It only acknowledges what she already knows about herself. Real attraction, however, begins when your words reach her senses, when they make her feel something in her body, not just her mind. That's why certain phrases have a different kind of impact. They don't flatter, they awaken. They're not designed to please her, they're designed to make her feel seen, felt, and desired in a way that feels emotionally charged rather than shallow. The phrase, there's something about the way you move that makes everything around you slow down, is one of those examples. It's not a compliment, it's an observation filled with energy. It makes her imagine herself through your eyes. It suggests presence, awareness, and a subtle kind of fascination. When you say something like this, it doesn't sound rehearsed or strategic. It feels spontaneous and real. You're not commenting on her beauty, you're describing the effect she has. And that's the difference between being a man who flatters and a man who moves her emotionally. When a woman hears a phrase like that, her brain doesn't process it as a mere compliment. It creates a sensory image. She starts to visualize what you're describing. She feels the attention in your tone, the calm confidence in your words, and the masculine stillness behind them. You've triggered both her imagination and her emotion at once, the two most powerful forces in feminine attraction. She's not just hearing your words, she's feeling them. She's visualizing herself the way you see her, and in that moment, your connection deepens without either of you having to force it. The beauty of such a phrase lies in its subtlety. It's not aggressive and it's not sexual in an explicit way. It's emotionally sensual. It respects her while still acknowledging her magnetism. Most men don't understand that true desire doesn't need to be loud or obvious. The most powerful attraction is quiet, controlled, and intentional. When your words carry that kind of quiet confidence, it tells her that you are not desperate for her attention. You are simply aware of her effect. That awareness feels intimate because it shows emotional intelligence, the ability to sense what most people overlook. When you replace generic compliments with words that reflect awareness, everything changes. A woman starts to lean in emotionally because she feels that you're not like the others. You're not saying what's easy, you're saying what's real, and that difference hits deep. Instead of feeling flattered, she feels connected. She feels like there's something between you that isn't explainable but undeniable. Your words have entered her emotional memory, the space where attraction turns into fascination. The key to using a phrase like this is sincerity. You can't fake the tone or the emotion behind it. If it's just a trick to get her attention, she'll feel the manipulation instantly. But if you truly observe her, her presence, her rhythm, her way of existing, and you speak from that awareness, it becomes powerful. Women are deeply sensitive to energetic authenticity. They don't just listen to what you say, they feel who you are while you're saying it. That's why this kind of communication works. It's rooted in truth, not performance. When you express awareness through language, it sends a subtle message of strength. You are a man who is not overwhelmed by her beauty, but intrigued by her essence. You notice details most men miss, and that makes her feel deeply feminine. It allows her to drop her guard because your words don't demand, they invite. They create a safe emotional space where she can experience attraction without feeling objectified. That's what turns a moment into a connection. Over time, this type of communication becomes your natural rhythm. You stop using cliches and start speaking from presence. Every time you say something, it carries emotional texture, calmness, attention, curiosity, desire. And that combination is unforgettable to a woman, because while she might forget the exact words, she will never forget how those words made her feel, grounded, seen, and desired in a way that felt completely genuine. Attraction isn't built through charm, appearance, or perfectly chosen words. It's created through energy, awareness, and emotional depth. When you stop chasing her validation and start communicating from presence, everything shifts. You move from being another man trying to impress her to becoming the man who moves her. Compliments fade, but impact remains. What makes her remember you isn't what you said, it's how she felt when you said it. When your words carry awareness, they go beyond her ears and touch something deeper. Her imagination, her emotions, her essence. That's where true desire begins. You don't make her want you by performing or by repeating what every other man says. You make her want you by seeing her in a way no one else does. That's what makes your presence unforgettable. So stop telling her she's beautiful. Let her feel that you see her beauty without ever having to say it. Speak less, but mean more. Use silence, eye contact, and genuine observation as your language. When you connect from that place, calm, grounded, and intentional, she won't just hear your words, she'll feel your energy. And once a woman feels you on that level, she doesn't just think about you, she craves the experience of being in your presence again.